Hi there. When we're studying marketing research, we're going to come across a term called sampling. So let's spend a few minutes just explaining what this is all about. I suppose the key with sampling is to understand its purpose in research. Let's say, for example, we're trying to sell a product to people in the UK. Big population out there. We'd really like to know more about what that population is about, what they're looking for, our target audience. And in an ideal world, we'd ask them all, do some research with them all, but of course it's not practical. So what you have to do is you have to take a sample, a small group from the target population, do some work and some research with the sample, and then hope that your research findings from the sample are representative of the overall population. So that's what we mean by sampling in marketing research. It's the gathering of research data, qualitative data, quantitative data, but from a sample of respondents, and you hope that if you draw the sample in the right way, the results are representative of the overall population, or for example the target market as a whole. Now in A-level business you're not going to be required to do lots of calculations of samples. I mean, statistical sampling is a whole discipline on its own, but what you do need to have is just an awareness of some of the issues, some of the benefits and drawbacks of sampling. So it'd be worth pausing this slide for a minute or two and maybe jotting a couple of these things down into your notes. Starting with the benefits of sampling. Well, clearly, if the population is large, sampling is a necessary activity, isn't it? You can't practically gain research from a very large population. So in many ways it's an essential part, sampling of research, but it's also pretty flexible, relatively quick to do depending on the size of the sample. And a good benefit, an important benefit of sampling is that it reduces the risk. Take some samples, do some focus groups from a sample of your target population to identify what the response of potential customers is to new products, rather than trying to launch them or to make a guess about what the population as a whole think. The drawbacks of sampling are perhaps more important, and this is often a key evaluation point, particularly for any business decision that's based on research that involves sampling. Firstly, it's possible that the sample that you pick, isn't representative of the population. That's the risk with sampling. If you don't use the right method or an appropriate method, then you are looking at a sample that bears no resemblance to the population as a whole. Secondly, depending on which methods of research you use, there is the risk of bias in your research questions to the sample, which you might then apply to the whole population. And I think another drawback of sampling is that in markets and industries where consumer tastes and preferences, needs and wants are changing rapidly, you may draw a sample 1 month, but actually things have changed so quickly that the following month the same sample or a different sample might give you a different answer. So there's always a drawback, as is the case with all research. There's always a potential disadvantage that your research becomes out of date. There we go. Hopefully that's useful. That's just a 3 or 4 minute introduction there to the role of sampling in marketing research.